G'day Jabronies, this is the Verd, back with you again. Welcome here to TCG content. Now you're probably like, what the hell is this? I got a lot to update you guys on, pretty much. So, last time we chatted, I was doing VGC and Draft League. And what's kind of happened is, so around the time of the Melbourne Esports Open, which was in August this year, I was going there for VGC, I was pretty keen for it, and I found out that they also had a TCG thing on. So the Esports Open was a bit different to other tournaments where one day was solely TCG and one day was solely VGC. So, I was like, hell yeah, I want to get in on this. So, I signed up for both, had a crack at learning some TCG, and as it's kind of turned out over the last, I'd say, it was August, now we're in December, so about the last 4 months, I've done a lot better than I thought I was going to do at TCG. So, what I've got in front of you that I will talk to you guys about today, as I started me doing a lot of TCG videos, is I'm just showing you guys the deck that I actually used most recently at the Brisbane Regionals. But before that, I'll kind of break down what I've been doing when it comes to. So, to be clear, probably for the future, for this channel, I'm probably not going to be coming back to Draft League. I think Draft League is still pretty cool, and I really admire the guys that do it, but for me, I don't enjoy it anymore. The main reason is because a lot of times I'm paired with guys around the world, and because I work a full-time job now, it is really difficult to try and actually plan out when I can play a lot of these guys to fit in with my schedule, and I'm not going to get up at like 5 in the morning to play somebody if I don't need to, and I can have a good night's sleep and then do my job properly. So I just decided that Draft League just wasn't really worth it anymore, but you know, kudos to all the guys still doing it. It is a lot of fun. If you haven't tried it before, I definitely recommend trying it. I may consider coming back as an analyst one day. We'll see. I don't know. For now, it's just kind of an afterthought. So, then with the VGC, I am still keen to do it because I've actually started up doing VGC back in South Australia. I've got a lot of people into it. So, the plan is to kind of keep that going, and the end goal being maybe creating a special event in Adelaide, much like the Melbourne Esports Open, where we can do TCG and VGC. It'd be wicked to have my friends come down here, so we'll see. I don't know. A man can dream. And I guess lastly, TCG. So after the Esports Open, I did okay-ish. I didn't do that great, so I kind of was feeling a bit like, I don't know, but the deck was really solid, and I was still learning the game. There were a lot of games that I ended up losing where I could have won if I just knew what I was meant to do at certain times. So, heading into, I guess, like the period after that had happened, I just kind of thought about, alright, well, what can I do with this? Because there wasn't a VGC scene in South Australia, and I thought this would be a way that I could get CP, and that'd be wicked. You know, Worlds being in London next year sounded so exciting, so I decided to kind of keep on going with TCG. And we got into the Cosmic Eclipse format. So the week before the Cosmic Eclipse format dropped, I actually finished top 4 at a league challenge, which got me 10 CP, my first ever CP that I'd ever received in any kind of thing for Pokemon. So I was wrapped. Obviously, you need 250 CP in TCG to get day 1 of Worlds. You need 300, I think, for VGC. So to get even 10, I was like, hell yeah, this is dope. Then Cosmic Eclipse, the latest set that Pokemon has released, dropped, and that's when I kind of really hit my stride. I built a very similar variant to this deck, a few little differences from the build that I actually took to Brisbane. I got 2nd place at back-to-back league challenges on a weekend. That got me 12 points in both of those, so that took me to 34 points altogether. And then I competed at a league cup that was being held, and I ended up finishing top 4, which was wicked. A lot of my games were put onto the Saberlize YouTube channel. They'll upload them, so I definitely recommend going to check that out. I did some kind of bad players in some games, and in the top 4 I just got paired with probably the worst matchup for my deck. So, it is what it is. I ended up getting 36 CP for that, so I was heading into... was it 36? No, 32. 32 CP. So I was heading into Brisbane Regionals with 66 CP under my belt. So I was about a quarter of the way to securing a invite to Worlds. So there were 151 competitors at the Brisbane Regionals, which is crazy. Crazy to think of. I was so used to just playing like with 20 people in Adelaide, so seeing that number was kind of nuts. My computer almost tried to die on me there. So heading into it, I was like, right, what can we do? Like, can I actually do this? Is this possible? And this is the list that I brought to Brisbane Regionals. I will go over every card because I know that for some people on my channel, TCG is not something that you're used to. I will go very in-depth in this video, so I do warn you in advance. It is a very long video because I want to try and explain things as best as possible. As you guys know from my time doing VGC and Draft League, I am a very thorough person. I go into a deep analysis. I think that it gives you a better idea of all the things that I do and a better understanding of why I do certain things. So that's my way of kind of justifying it, I suppose. But regardless, I went into the regional kind of just hoping I could do well. I was on a bit of a rush, you know. I was going on a bit of a dream run, and I just wanted to keep the momentum going. I go into the regional, and I actually end up finishing 26th out of 151. So top 32 for that event was 60 CP. So at this time of recording, I have 126 CP, which means I am over halfway in 4 months to getting my Worlds invite. Now, Worlds is in August next year, so I have another like 7 months to amass the points that I've pretty much acquired in about 3 to 4 months. So I'm buzzing from that. Unfortunately, there are no more events until the 11th of January, which I believe is the next League Cup that is coming out, but I was really stoked with how this list played. I did do an interview with Johnny GB on the Token Minorities TCG channel that I would recommend you guys checking out. It is really good. I feel like we had issues kind of audio-wise, and I wasn't able to describe things as best as I could, so I'm taking this opportunity in this video to break things down as properly as possible. Whether I thought this was the best list I could have brought, maybe upon reflection it wasn't. However, knowing the meta matchups that I faced, I knew that this was the list I wanted to bring, and unfortunately I just got paired with maybe some matchups where different techs would have been a lot more beneficial, but we live and we learn. So, I ended up going 4 wins, 1 loss, 3 draws from my 8 rounds. I only lost 1 set that I played, and I just bricked both times. So bricking is just where you just can't draw any of your good cards. You just have to kind of take the L, and that kind of sucks. And it was one of those things, and a lot of the draws that happened were where it went to time limit. So each TCG game takes 50 minutes. And then you go to time, and we have 3 turns within time to try and finish the game. I had 1 game where I was able to finish it in time, and most of the others just went to draws because I was playing against decks where they realized they couldn't beat me, so they just stalled me out so that I couldn't win. It was a bit frustrating, but I understand in a competition that was that big with that much CP on the line, that's just what you have to do, so it is what it is. But, alright, so we're going to break down this deck. So I know that some of you aren't going to understand TCG, so I'm going to try and explain this as best as possible with the cards, but I think you would have to have some kind of knowledge of TCG to kind of understand what I'm going to talk about. So, regardless, we're going to jump into the main factor of this deck. So, Mewtwo and Mew is probably the deck that I've run, like, it is basically the deck that I've run for all of my CP so far. Whether that is going to continue in 2020, I am not sure. I think that there are a lot of really exciting decks coming out that I think may be better than Mewtwo. I think also a lot of decks are countering Mewtwo given how it has taken what is known as the best deck in format title. It is just incredibly strong, primarily because of Mewtwo and Mew's ability. So Perfection allows you to copy any attack of a GX or EX on your bench or in your discard pile. So this is kind of huge. I'm not going to lie, like a pretty insane card. It's very easy to use, I think. That was kind of the appeal of it when I first started learning it. It was more just getting the important GX in the discard and then using their attacks to kind of win, more or less. It also has a cool GX attack. You can only use 1 GX attack in a game. So Miraculous Duo, for 2 Psychic and a Colorless, did 200 and allows you to heal all damage off of all your Pokemon. Can be really nice in a bind. It's alright. Like, the GX attack used to be really good. It's not as good anymore. So, it is what it is. But yeah, Perfection is busted. So, as you can see, this deck has a lot of different GXs that I can copy the attacks of. But before I show you all the attacks that I'm going to copy, I kind of want to go over the other Pokemon that support this deck really well. So, Jirachi is the primary one. This is a card that is being splashed into almost every deck because of how useful Stellar Wish is. Being able to see the top 5 cards of your deck, adding whatever trainer card you might need at that certain point in time, The sleep factor doesn't matter too much. A lot of decks are running a skateboard, which allows you to get out of there, or switch as well. So it's not too big of a deal for Jirachi. You run a high count of Jirachi and Mewtwo because you want to start with either one of them. Some people run 4 Jirachi. I chose to go with 3, and I will explain my reasons why. But Jirachi was incredibly solid. Every time you open with it, you normally are going to get off to a really, really good start. Now, Marshadow is a really important card in the current meta, especially for Mewtwo. So Mewtwo struggles against a card called Power Plant. It's a stadium that shuts off all Pokemon GX and EX ability. I think it's GX abilities, not sure. But it shuts off all abilities, which means that Mewtwo can't use its Perfection ability to copy attacks. So how do we get rid of stadiums? Marshadow has an ability called Resetting Hole. You can discard any stadium as well as the Marshadow. Now, when you discard Marshadow, it doesn't mean your opponent takes a prize. You're discarding it to get rid of that stadium. So really, really solid. It's also very good against decks that are running Chaotic Swell, which is a new card that came out in Cosmic Eclipse, because Chaotic Swell reads that you can play a stadium to get rid of Chaotic Swell, but then that stadium goes in the discard too. So instead, you use Marshadow to get rid of the stadium, and then you can play your own stadium out. So really, really solid card. The last of the kind of non-GX cards they added into this deck is Mew. There are a couple of reasons why. One goes into a certain matchup that I felt Mewtwo struggled against that I knew Mew would be able to assist me with. And also, it actually turned out to be a really effective card in the Mewtwo mirror matches. With Bench Barrier, you actually prevent Mewtwo's from using some attacks I'm going to show you that would normally target the bench, which is really, really handy and can prove to be pretty pivotal. Side Power is very, very strong. 3 damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon any way you like is actually busted, and I will kind of explain to you why as we kind of go through this. But yeah, we're going to go through all the GXs now. There are a lot of them. They all have different effects. I'm going to try and break them all down for you as easily as possible. So, Mega Lopunny and Jigglypuff GX was brought out in Cosmic Eclipse and was one of the most used cards probably coming out of the set. Primarily because its attack, Jumping Balloon, was 3 colorless energies. Now, colorless energy means that you can use any energy in the game and it'll count as the cost. So, it meant that you could put this card in any deck and any deck can use it and it'll work fine. So, Jumping Balloon does 60 more damage for each of your opponent's GX and Pokemon EX in play, which is kind of crazy. For matchups like the Mewtwo and Pikarom, this was like an auto-win card. A lot of decks could easily just splash this card in and just smack through things. Like, for example, Pikachu and Zekrom GX has 240 HP. So if you have a Pikachu and Zekrom, a Dedenne, and a Zeraora out, that is 3 GX Pokemon, which means Jumping Balloon does 60 plus the 3 GX Pokemon, which is 240, which means it just knocks out a Pikarom immediately, which is kind of nuts. So it was kind of the death of Pikarom for a little bit. I think heading into the next format, with things like Tapu Koko V coming out, Pikarom will see a resurgence, but this card did kind of kill them, and it is incredibly splashable in every deck. For Mewtwo, it's pretty obvious why it's there. It auto-beats Pikarom. It's actually quite strong against Blacephalon too, because if they have 2 Blacephalons out, you just knock them out really easily with this attack. There's not as much commitment needed. It's not bad against other Mewtwo as well, to kind of push through. And Puffy Smashes is not the best GX attack, but I have used it once, and it wasn't bad. The Gyarados GX is the reason why I was running Mew in my list, as well as other another GX card, but it's primarily in here for Venom Shot. So for 4 energy, you discard 2 of those energies, and you snipe something for 170 on the bench. Really, really strong effect. Injection GX sometimes is a bit useful. It just depends on like what you're playing against to try and avoid any certain situations where your opponent can just win next turn, taking your prize. If you can, take an advantage that way, then yeah, it's a pretty good card. But not too sure. Not too sure there about that one. The Venom Shot is the primary thing that makes this card good though, and it's very splashable in all Mewtwo decks. Charizard and Braixen is a new card that also came out in Cosmic Eclipse. It was kind of ended up being the Makago replacement, I suppose. Everyone was using Makago GX before Cosmic Eclipse, and now we use Charizard and Braixen. So Brilliant Flare for 180 allows you to search for 3 cards in your deck and add them to your hand, which is inherently just busted if you can get it off. Granted, for 4 energy doing 180, as you'll see with some other Pokemon, it's not that great. But there are situations where you can just slap that damage down and then set yourself up next turn to do a really big play, and that's the most appealing part of this. Crimson Flame Pillar is the reason why this replaced Makago. So the Makago in the Mewtwo deck used to be able to, with its GX attack, discard the top 5 cards of your opponent's deck for game. Whereas with Charizard and Braixen, the GX attack actually allows you to attach 5 basic energies from your discard pile to your Pokemon in any way you like. And then if you have 1 extra energy on this Pokemon, you also burn and confuse your opponent's active. So it's pretty neat. The burn and confuse doesn't really matter too much, but against like Pidgeotto control, you just keep knocking things out and they try and Articuno you. To which you just reply with Crimson Flame Pillar and just set up a couple of Mewtwo's again, so you can just spam like Turbo Strike for game if they don't Giraffe Rig. So really, really solid in the end. Very solid card. In theme of Charizard, it's actually a very Charizard heavy deck. But Reshiram and Charizard GX, a lot of people have cut this card. I think it's just still so good. I don't see a reason to cut it. Outrage is still incredibly strong. Just a 2 energy attack that can punish opponents if they leave damage on you is just crazy good. For example, if you have a Mewtwo that's out, that's been hit for 240, say like by an opposing Mewtwo using Tag Purge, which I'll show you later, being able to then deal 270 back is pretty nuts if you've taken 240. For just 2 energy, it means you can charge something up on the bench and just knock out the active. Flare Strike, like I said, for 4 energy doing 230, that's incredibly strong. Puts a lot of pressure on a lot of things. There are some really cool combos as well with other cards that I have. And Double Blaze, if I have 6 fire energies on this or on the Mewtwo, then I ignore Pokemon's abilities when I attack, which means you can break through things like Keldeo GX, which has an ability that prevents GXs from attacking it. But this will actually break through that. On to the last of the Charizards. Charizard GX is in here for one reason. Flareblitz GX for 4 energy does 300 damage. That's it. That's all you need to know. That is busted against like Mewtwo, against Reshizard, against Arceus, Dialga, and Palkia, all these things that have so much HP. Being able to just slap down 4 energy and say like, yep, you're knocked out immediately is insane. And you can get this off really effectively almost all the time on your second turn with Mewtwo. So it's pretty scary that the deck has that ability to do that. All it takes is 1 energy attach on the first turn, and then Welder for 2 energies, and then attach 1 more energy, and boom, you're Flare Blitzing for 300. It's a kind of nuts card, not gonna lie. Now, this card is something that no other Mewtwo deck was probably running. I chose to run it, and it just didn't work the way that I wanted it to at Brisbane, nor did it work the way I wanted to at the League Challenge that I went to the week after Brisbane, where I didn't actually get any points, unfortunately, which is where I was thinking maybe Mewtwo's kind of running its course. This Venusaur was brought in for a very specific purpose. There is a matchup that Mewtwo struggles against very heavily, and it is Baby Blacephalon. Now, I say baby because there is a regular Blacephalon GX, but we're talking about the baby, which is a 1-prize attacker and can do a shit ton of damage, and Mewtwo cannot out-accelerate it. And that is something very scary to say when Mewtwo is probably the best deck when it comes to acceleration. Blacephalon's just better at it. So why did I want to bring in this Venusaur and Snivy? So the primary reason is for its GX attack. Solar Plant GX requires only 3 colorless energies, so Mewtwo can use that very, very easily, like the Mega Lopunny and Jigglypuff. Solar Plant GX does 50 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon, and then if you have 2 extra energies, you heal all damage. The healing doesn't matter. So the whole premise of this attack, right, was the Blacephalon engine heavily focuses on having Pidgeys and Jirachis. Pidgeottos that can use Airmail. So you use Solar Plant GX to leave all the Pidgeys on like 10 damage. And then you would give the Mewtwo, I'll see if I have it down here on the bottom row, this card. This is a tool card called Spell Tag. When Mewtwo gets knocked out while it's holding a Spell Tag, you can deal a damage counter. You can put 4 damage counters wherever you want. So the normal strategy was that you had one Mewtwo that had a bunch of energies on it because you were trying to set up... I'll kind of try and explain the combo that happened with this. It also tied in with this Espeon and Deoxys GX. So Espeon and Deoxys used to be the way that we dealt with Blacephalon. It's not that great anymore. So, Espeon and Deoxys. For Psychic Club isn't super important. It's more about Cross Division we're focusing on here. So Cross Division. It puts 10 damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon any way you like. But if you have 6 energies attached to Espeon, Deoxys, or Mewtwo, and you go for this GX attack, you can put 20 damage counters wherever you want. So against Blacephalon, that used to be really, really good. However, accelerating to 6 energies became incredibly difficult compared to Blacephalon only needing to get to 9, but they can use things like Fiery Flint to get them into the hand really, really easily. So the question was, how could you double down and make things better? So the way you do it is you have a Mewtwo in the active with like 3 to 4 energies. So next turn, you have the ability to go for Cross Division. Then you have another Mewtwo on the bench with like none or like 1 energy chilling on there. So you're ready to, like, you can't cross divide, so you're just chilling there. The Mewtwo in the active with 4 energies is holding on to the spell tag. So then, if the Blacephalon wants to knock out the Mewtwo holding the spell tag, you put the damage counters on the Pidgeotos that have 60 HP, so they go down to 50, and then the Mewtwo on the bench, which gets brought up after the other one gets knocked out, comes up and declares Solar Plant GX and proceeds to knock out every single Pidgey, which is kind of nuts. It was like, through testing online, it was an incredibly effective strategy. And also, if the spell tag was prized, the other option was the Solar Plant, let that get knocked out, and then Mew comes down. And with Psi Power, you do the 10 to each of those Pidgeys, you still get your knockouts. So really, really strong either way. It countered the Blacephalon matchup significantly. I, since then, haven't really lost a Blacephalon because of that strategy. However, I did not face a single Blacephalon at the last League Challenge or in Brisbane at all, so the techs were kind of not great. Like, the Mew could be saved because of the fact that, yes, it does help in the Mewtwo matchup. Like, kind of. But the Venusaur just didn't really have any factor. It was really disappointing. I really wanted it to work, but I think the thing that I've learned with this deck is you just kind of have to accept that the Blacephalon matchup's going to be hard. You just got to hope that you can, like, just smash better than they can, I guess. And the Venusaur and the Mew did hurt the consistency a little bit, I will be honest. Dropping them and bringing in like another Jirachi, another Escape Board, all those things would have been way more beneficial in Brisbane. Bitter pill to swallow, but pardon me, as much as I wish they would have worked, they didn't really work. The only plus side of Spell Tag, I will say, is that the 40 damage you could put onto a Keldeo, and then you could use Greninja. So Greninja with Miss Slash does 130 and breaks through Keldeo's ability. So after you use the spell tag, you just knock out the Keldeo and you win. So it's pretty cool. Elusive Master can be really clutch because you can use it in the hand and it bypasses Power Plant because it's an effect that activates in the hand, not in the field of play, which is kind of nuts. And Dark Mist GX I actually declared at Brisbane to force a tie because I could not find Great Catcher, so I had to go for the next best option, which was not to win but was to push for the draw, and fortunately going for Dark Mist and putting his Mewtwo with all the energies attached back onto his hand won me the game. So that was pretty dope. What other GXs haven't I covered? So we got, okay, Solgaleo GX is probably the most busted GX in this deck, primarily because it only requires 2 energies to attack. Turbo Strike does 120, and then I can attach 2 basic energies from my discard pile to one of my bench Pokemon. Which is kind of nuts when you think about it. Like, it's kind of crazy that you can just do that for free. Pretty mad. Pretty mad attack going on there from Solgaleo GX. Pretty nutty. Not gonna lie. So yeah, solid card there. It's just so stupid. You don't use Prominence GX ever. But yeah, Turbo Strike is the best attack to declare turn 1 if you can. It's just so good. Latios is a mainstay in Mewtwo decks. 1, you can put it down as a free retreat Pokemon, which is really good in the current meta. And 2, you use Tag Purge primarily, which does 120 and prevents you from taking damage from a tag team Pokemon on the next turn, which is pretty nuts. Clear Vision can sometimes be great, but most decks actually use Clear Vision against you to prevent some of your strongest GX attacks from being declared. So, that is all the Pokemon. Basically, the whole premise is that you use a bunch of ways to discard the Pokemon so that Mewtwo can use the attacks, and you go on to win the game. More or less. So now what we're going to do is we're going to scroll down a little bit, and we're going to look into the trainer cards and the energies that I used for the competition. So, Cherish Ball, a very straightforward trainer card. It just searches for any GX and adds it to my hand. So primarily looking for Mewtwo or some pieces that I was going to use to kind of go from there and win the game. So then we got Great Catcher. So a lot of decks used to run Custom Catcher. Great Catcher is just insane though, because you discard 2 and you switch a GX or EX with their active Pokemon. So It's crazy. You just bring up a GX that you want to knock out at any time. It's also really good in Mewtwo because you discard either energy or you discard Pokemon that you can use the attacks of, and energy that you can use with Turbo Strike to kind of get them back anyway. So really, really strong card in the deck. Mysterious Treasure, just ran 2 of these. It allows you to discard a card and search for a Psychic or Dragon type. This was mainly used to get to things like Marshadow or Mewtwo on turns that I needed them, but it was also nice to find like Naganadel if I needed to thin my deck a little bit. Reset Stamp, really solid card. Just forcing your opponent to like kind of be... So it can be a really strategic card, this. So you kind of allow your opponent to take a knockout, and then you reset stamp them and take a reverse knockout, and then you're in a much better position. It's kind of like a game of chess. You allow them to take one of your chess pieces just so you can put yourself in a more advantageous position. So really, really solid card. It shuffles their hand into the deck, and then they draw cards for the remaining prize cards that they have. So that can be really solid. Switch, very straightforward. Just switch the active with the benched. Tag Call. Really, really strong card. Not only does it get you the tag team Pokemon that I showed you, it also gets you all your tag team supporters. And we are going to go over the tag team supporters very, very soon. And Giant Hearth, the main stadium of the deck. Just a crazy, crazy good card. Discard a card from your hand, add 2 fire energies to your hand. You'll see with another supporter that I'm going to show you why that is so busted. Especially in Mewtwo, being able to discard a GX that you don't need, or like one that you want to use the attack of, get it into the discard, and then you can just fire off attacks with it. Pretty crazy. So, in terms of the tag team supporters, you had 1 Cynthia and Caitlyn. Basically, you just discard a card, you can add a supporter back to your hand, and then draw 3 cards. Pretty nice for recycling things. Guzma Hala is like the ultimate turn 1 supporter to use, because you discard 2 cards from your hand, you get a Pokemon tool, a special energy, and a stadium. So normally in like Mewtwo matchups, you're grabbing things like your Weakness Guard or your Rainbow with the energies. You're grabbing a Skateboard, Spell Tag, or Stealthy Hood. And then you're also grabbing Giant Hearth. And you can kind of set yourself up for next turn going ham. Last of the tag team supporters is Mallow and Lana, being able to discard 2 cards and then heal 120 damage from the Pokemon that was in the active, and you move it to the bench. So another switch card, really, really nice. But this is the most broken card in the deck. Welder. So, as you saw with Giant Hearth, there's an easy way to get 2 energies into your hand. So then Welder attaches up to 2 fire energies to your Pokemon, and then you draw 3 cards. Which is just nuts. Like, for this deck, it is nuts. It means that you can attach 3 energies in 1 turn, which is insane. It means that the Charizard play is really, really easy. Like, the Mewtwo Mirror Match is very much the first person. So the person who goes first plays Tag Call, gets Guzma and Hala. And they go, I'm going to get Giant Hearth, I'm going to get Weakness Guard Energy, and I'm going to get like an Escape Board if I've opened a Jirachi. So your Escape Board means Jirachi is going to be able to retreat next turn, Mewtwo is going to be able to attack. You attach the Weakness Guard to Mewtwo, and you get a Giant Hearth in hand. Then if you're sitting on a Welder, all you do is you go Giant Hearth, discard Charizard GX, get 2 cards, so 2 fire energy, sorry, Welder onto them, find 1 more energy, attach it to Mewtwo, bring it to the active, boom! 300 damage by turn 2. That is just stupidly good. It's nuts. Absolutely nuts. Skateboard's really solid too. It lowers the retreat cost of the Pokemon by 1, and then also allows you to retreat if you're asleep or paralyzed. Can be very, very solid. Really for Jirachi, I kind of, in hindsight, would drop 1 spell tag for an Skateboard back. 100%. If I was changing that. Spell tag have gone over. Stealthy Hood was in here because Malamar decks were running a Mimikyu, which has the ability, if your opponent's Pokemon have damage counters on them, they have no abilities, so Stealthy Hood breaks that, which is really important. It allows you just kind of to win the Malamar matchup quite convincingly, because when you use Guzma and Hala, you can get Giant Hearth, Stealthy Hood, Weakness Guard, and then you're pretty much set against them. Rainbow Energy is basically just in here because it copies any energy. It provides a colorless energy using any type that you want. The only downside is you have to put a damage counter on your Pokemon. So you put 10 damage on, but it is so worth it for what it can do for you. Weakness Guard is busted. It means your Pokemon has no weakness, so Mewtwo is no longer weak to Psychic, which means the Malamar matchup becomes a breeze. Really, really solid card in general. And then finally, just the 8 fire energies. I have 9, but we're only running 8 in this deck. Really, really solid card. Well, obviously it's solid. It's just the main thing that powers up Mewtwo. As you know, we have a primarily fire engine. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. There's no massive combos that I can kind of go through. Oh, I forgot to show you this guy, Dedenne. So Dedenne is a very straightforward card. Basically, you mainly use this for Dead change. So you can put it from your hand onto your bench, and if you do, you discard your entire hand and then draw 6 cards, which is just stupidly good. A really, really solid card. I really like this right now. Just a lower count because of how strong Mega Lopunny and Jigglypuff is, but really solid. So yeah, there's no real big strategies. You kind of just get the Mewtwo out, discard a bunch of cards, and then just go attacking. The only tricky part is deciding what attacks to use at what times, and that's where the skill of the deck, I guess, comes into it. But I really enjoyed using it for the period. What I would recommend, and what I'm going to kind of show you guys now, is the changes I would make heading into the next League Challenge if I was going to use this deck again. So, I drop out the Venusaur and Snivy, unfortunately, and probably add back in one more Jirachi. That's the immediate change I go with there. I probably drop the Mew. It hasn't been helpful at all. Not sure what else I would change just yet. But then I would go into trainers. And one thing I would do as well is I would drop this spell tag out of here and add one more escape board. For sure. A lot of decks are running 3 Great Catcher. I felt fine with just 2, I would say. Another thing I would change in here upon reflection is probably dropping out the Greninja GX and adding back in a Turtonator. So Turtonator was really good for a lot of people because with Explosive Jet you can just beat Arceus, Dialga, and Palkia because they run a Keldeo, and this just breaks through the Keldeo very easily and puts you in like a game-winning position. And it's also searchable by Mysterious Treasure, so I think Turtonator is a really solid add in this deck as well. I think the Dedenne count and the Jirachi count is now fine. The only other change that I've seen people do that I would consider, maybe, is they've gone with just one rainbow. They've dropped out 2 other rainbows, and they've gone with 1 Psychic Energy, 9 Fire Energies, and then they've brought back in the Makago GX, which I think is fine. The only thing I'm iffy about is running the single copy of Psychic Energy. I feel like the second rainbow is better for it, so I would recommend dropping down 1 fire and adding back in. Oop, I don't have 2 of that rainbow, so let's fix that up. I'm pretty sure I have 2 of a different rainbow. Yeah, I do. So we'll drop that. I think, yeah, that line is, sorry, it's 9 fire. So 9 fire, drop in the Psychic for another rainbow. Reason being is because there are times where you really want to hit the rainbow or the weakness guard. So running 3 means there's a very low chance of them all being Prizmew, Guzma, and Hala. So hitting all those is really important. So this is kind of how the updated list would look. So Makago is really strong. I haven't got into this card, but it's very, very strong. Lava Flow, you discard any amount of basic energies that are attached, and then you do 50 more damage for each card you discarded this way. So it can be very, very strong against a lot of decks, and Burning Magma, like I said, discarding the top 5 cards of your opponent's deck is just incredibly good. So I think heading into the next League Challenge, this is what I would use, this kind of build. I think it's very, very strong, just gets the job done against a lot of the current meta. So would definitely recommend going with that. But that's going to be it, guys. That is my kind of deck review, I suppose, from what I used for the top 32 at Brisbane Regionals. So from here, the next big one is a League Cup that's happening in less than a month now. I think it's about 3 weeks away. The 11th of January is when that one's going down, which I'm pretty keen about. I'm not sure what I'm going to be using, but in the next few weeks, I'm going to be showcasing a lot of decks, and definitely one of the decks that I showcase, I believe, is something I will be using for that League Cup. I'm going to be doing a bunch of decks, just testing them out, seeing how I feel, and whichever one I feel the most comfortable with, I'm going to be heading to the League Cup with that deck. So, hopefully you guys have enjoyed. If you have, like the video, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'm going to be coming at you with a lot of TCG stuff in the future, but also I would like to still keep up with the VGC content. Going to be getting in a lot of friends maybe to help me out, just showing me maybe some teams they've been using and doing some showdown lives with them, as that would be a lot more fun. So if you guys are keen for that, let me know. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video. I will catch you guys next time with either some TCG or VGC content. I'm the Verd, I'm out of spit.